waterfront and it's wonderful.
Okay, hi David.
Hi Barbara.
Right, we're going to cut that out. But
Why? You can start. Are we online?
yes, it's rolling. The camera's rolling.
Great.
Action.
Action.
Okay. How can we sustainably grow our economy using our available energy sources?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question. I think the thing that we have to understand is that there's a mix of energy. Okay, the sun shines on the earth, and we know that from science, that every hour or two, or whatever happens, let's say every day, enough sun strikes the earth to power everything on earth hundreds of times over. So in other words, we get our year's supply of energy in one day from the sun. If we could tap all of it, we wouldn't need any other source of energy, except of course that the sun is not shining at night on our side of the planet. But if we could get energy from the other side of the planet to us, then we would have our answer solved, but that's a complicated problem because of losses on the distribution grid. Okay. The next thing is that the sun has shined for billions of years, and trees and other things have over time become coal, oil, uranium, gas, and all kinds of other stuff in the ground. And then also the other stuff in the ground is things like titanium and iron ore and things that we make things out of. So we take stuff out the ground, we use electricity, we convert it into something which might be a car or a table or a book or a cell phone, and then we use that to make our lives a better place. So what we want to do is we want to use the energy we have to make our lives a better place. We want to do it sustainably so that our children can inherit a world, that's better than the world we had. I think that we've had a massive growth since the Industrial Revolution. We use a lot of coal. You've got the pictures of the old, trains spewing black smoke, and you've got pea soup fog in London in the 19th century because of coal burning at people's homes, where they made fires to heat and so on, and cook with Argo cookers at home. So we had pea soup fog, which is this thick, horrible fog that caused a lot of respiratory problems, which now seems to have gone away because of power stations in remote areas, coal mines that we don't see, etc. So if we look at the mix, at the moment, most of our electricity in South Africa, let's talk about South Africa because we're in South Africa, is made with coal, and then there's some nuclear at Coburg, and there's a reason that they put Coburg there, which we can talk about, and then there's hydro, and then there's pumped storage hydro, which means when there's excess electricity we pump the water up, maybe at 1 cent a kilowatt hour, and when we need the electricity urgently we let the water flow down, and also at very low price. Whereas if we have a peaking power station like Unkeluk near Atlantis, which uses diesel, then that electricity is costing us close to 15 rand a kilowatt hour. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to say, in an emergency, we'll run that peaking power station, but let's look at all the other alternatives first because that's the most pollution. And if we can put gas into that peaking power station from the gas fields off the coast of Namibia and South Africa and the sea, sustainably, without polluting the sea, and bring that gas to Cape Town and Unkeluk and so on, then we can run those turbines using gas, which is still, hydrocarbon, which means there's pollution and so on in various forms, but we've got that peaking power. So we have this whole mix. So the basic mix is we have coal, we have nuclear, we have hydroelectric, we have oil, and we have gas. Those are the main ones that we have in a normal system. Then we have what are called alternative energies. Interestingly enough, those first 5 are actually the alternative energies, because we've always had solar energy. In the desert, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, people had fridges without using electricity. So you could have a little sheet of material, and you could wet it, and the wind would blow through it, and the sun would shine on it, and you could underneath the ground you could have a fridge. You could have in France, when the king, I think it was King Louis, built his fountain system at Versailles, he let the water flow down the river, for 6 months, so that he could run his fountains for a party for 3 hours. No electricity required, but energy being used. We had wind turbines, which we used to call windmills, and Holland was powered by windmills. So it's kind of like we're saying, well, we've got alternative energy, which is the sun and the wind and the sea and waves and all this kind of stuff, but people are actually making energy with that stuff for hundreds of thousands of years, and actually the alternative energy is coal, nuclear, hydro, gas, oil. One of the things about oil is that we only use 10% of the energy in oil if we burn it in our cars. So we need oil. You know, our cell phones, I've got plastic. We've got plastic everywhere. Plastic comes from oil. So there's a lot of other things that come from oil. Some of the tablets that we take in the pharmaceutical industry come from oil. So there's a much better use for oil than burning it in our car as petrol or diesel or whatever. Okay. So let's look at the alternative energies as they call today. Okay. So we have sun. Sun means that we've got direct sun arriving on a solar panel. And the solar panel is called a photovoltaic panel because it's photovoltaic. It's like making electricity from the sun. That comes out as direct current, goes through something called an inverter, which inverts direct current to alternating current, and then the alternating current goes and runs the lights. Okay, and we have an alternating current grid today. Okay, we could have a direct current grid, and that's being worked on as well. So solar. Then besides that, besides making electricity, and the other thing to think about from that is that if you look at a plant or a tree is using photovoltaic. It's a chlorophyll and so on. So that what a leaf is doing is pumping water out the ground to help the tree sustain. So the tree is a pump. Okay, so we can't say that we've got electrical pumps and pumping is a new technology. When the first tree was created on Earth 7 billion years ago, it was pumping water out the ground. Okay, using solar energy. So that's not a new technology. Okay, and so besides photovoltaic panels, the problem everybody says, well, photovoltaic electricity is only available in the day. That's true. But now what we can do is we can use the technology called concentrated solar, CSP, concentrated solar power. Concentrated solar power makes electricity by shining electricity on a pipe, for example. Pipe has a special glycol mixture in it, like you have in your car, antifreeze, water with antifreeze. And then what happens is that gets piped at very high temperature into a boiler. Steam gets made, and that turns a turbine, makes electricity. The excess energy goes into salt, melts the salt at between 600 and 800 degrees Celsius, and the molten salt becomes a store of energy so that at night when the sun goes down, you can take the heat out of the salt and make steam and run your turbine. Okay. So in Spain, they're currently running those for 16 hours a day. So 16 hours a day in South Africa is 6 a.m. in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, which covers our morning and evening peak. So now we've just solved the problem of having electricity during the day and having electricity at peak times. Okay. Then the next thing is that we can make we can use the sun to directly heat water. Okay. We can either do that, and that's called solar water heating. We have a collector on the roof, and we have a geyser. We put the water in the geyser, the hot water. We can also have it on a wide scale, called community solar or community heating. Okay, where you can pump the water out of a community farm where all the solar panels are and pump it through the houses. If you're building a new development, okay, you shouldn't be having geysers on all the houses. You should have a central grid making, at least making hot water. So that's making hot water. You can also use very hot water for air conditioning. There's a process to take very hot water over 90 degrees Celsius and use it for air conditioning with heat exchangers and so on. So we've got hot water, we've got electricity, that's from the sun. There's other things we can do with the sun. Then we have wind. Okay, Harvard, it's interesting because over time, as things progress, business schools, business learning, business education gets to the point where it says, we can make money out of this sustainably, and that's where business is. Business is in the business of making profit. People, at the end of the day, want to make money. And if they can take their money and they can put it on the stock market and make a 20% return, and they can put it in renewable energy and make a 10% return, they'd rather wait until they can make the 20% return on renewable energy. Besides all things being equal. In other words, we're not worried, we're not concerned about the environment, we're not considering externalities, all that other stuff. So just all things being equal in the greater scheme of things at that level. Okay, so the wind turbines, Harvard Business have now come to the party and they said that there's enough offshore wind energy close to shore to provide 3 times as much electricity as we need now, worldwide. So that means just using wind energy off the coast of South Africa and on the coast of South Africa and across South Africa where there's wind, we should be able to power the entire of South Africa with wind. And for example, Coburg, which is 1.8 gigawatts, okay, for the amount of money that it costs to build a new nuclear power station, you can put 3 1.8 gigawatt wind farms around South Africa in the windy areas. Chances are those wind farms will be blowing 24 hours a day. Okay? And then people say, but hang on a sec, wind energy is intermittent, solar energy is intermittent because the cloud goes over and then it's night. Okay? But they forget to say, but nuclear is intermittent. Coal is intermittent. Because what happens if the coal doesn't reach the power station? What happens if the diesel doesn't reach the power station? What happens if there's a bolt in the turbine? You know, what happens if something stops working? You know, what happens if there's a tsunami that knocks a whole nuclear power station out of business? You know, so a nuclear power station or coal power station is not up 100% of the time. It's up 85% of the time. Okay, the other 15% of the time, it's down for planned maintenance for about 5% of the time, and then there's unexpected downtime because there's maintenance. So it means that any grid has got a 15% spare capacity so that you can keep your grid running constantly, okay, and keep the lights on. So when you turn the light on, how did Eskom know that you were going to turn your light on when you didn't? When you turned on, they didn't know. So that means they've got excess electricity running all the time. In a really good grid like in America, they're running 15% spare capacity all the time. Okay? And they're running the 15% spare capacity all the time. So when someone at a factory turns on a machine which needs a 1 megawatt to start the machine, maybe they need 200 kilowatts to run it, but when a machine starts it needs a lot of energy, then when they turn that on, the energy is available. That means that the energy's got to be made. My favorite example of this is that if you want to make a fire for your friends to have a barbecue or bride home, and you want to make it at 6 p.m., you're going to start the fire at 4:30 or 5. If you want to turn on your oven at 6 p.m., well, Eskom don't know when you're going to turn the oven on, so they start the fire at 5 in the morning. Now, yes, they've got all kinds of models to say, well, under normal circumstances, people are turning most of the ovens on at 6 o'clock, therefore we're going to ramp up production, we're going to start our peaking plants, we're going to do this and that, and there are all kinds of opportunities. So we can't say that base load is 100% up, it's not, and therefore we have to have multiple power stations running at the same time to get base load. So if we have multiple power stations, isn't it better, if one reactor or one turbine or something happens to the distribution from Coburg and we lose 900 megawatts, okay, and we're talking about people like me who've got 1 kilowatt of photovoltaic panels on the roof, how many thousand systems like mine, do we have to have before we've got 900 megawatts? 900,000. So 900,000 houses have got to all go off at the same time to have the same impact as Coburg. So now we've got solar and wind. Okay. Then we have things like pumped storage. Pumped storage is very important in a renewable energy grid or in a total energy grid. For example, Steenbras Dam we've got near Cape Town at Gordons Bay. If you haven't been there, I recommend you go take a look. There's 2 dams. There's a dam just above Gordons Bay and there's another dam on top of the mountain. What happens is that when electricity is cheap, like at 2 o'clock in the morning, that electricity is used to pump. We use electricity to pump water up. Okay, we use the electricity from Coburg, for example, to pump that water up. Then at 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. when suddenly we need demand, we let the water flow down. Now it sounds counterintuitive, to use electricity to pump water up, because you've got to pump this water with a lot of energy up the mountain. But the incremental cost, the marginal cost of using that electricity is maybe 1 or 2 or 5 cents a kilowatt hour. It's there in the system in any case. Just not that extra 15% is not being used. So let's pump water up with it. And if we need it, we'll take it and use it. And if we need energy from the water, we let the water flow down. So there's all kinds of built-in reserves. Okay. So for example, if we're wasting 15%, we might as well be pumping water. And then if we need the electricity, we've got it instantaneously. So let's go and build lots and lots, hundreds or thousands of micro hydro systems all over the countryside, in Franschhoek, Paarl, Worcester, mountainous areas, Slanghoed Valley, where I was looking at a pump storage system for a farmer. Okay, so, and that's near Worcester. So there are these kinds of opportunities. They're called micro hydro. Okay, and someone's got a dam at this level of the farm, and across the valley they've got a dam here, and they can let the water flow down during the day and make electricity, and at night they can let the electricity flow up, or they've got a solar panel and they're producing more electricity, they can let the water flow up. When they need it, they can let it flow down, and that's a normal part of the grid. We want to make the grid work like that. Okay. So now we've got solar, we've got wind, we've got water, hydro, and the other benefit of having a dam is you've got water. So when you need water, you've got water. Okay. Then you've got things like the sea. So we've got wave action. We've got a wave. If you go and sit at the beach, the waves are coming in, they're coming in, they're coming in. it's possible to make energy from that. At the moment, it's expensive. But just like photovoltaic electricity, which costs 120 a kilowatt hour at the moment for a homeowner, okay? In 1960, it cost 600 rand a kilowatt hour. In 1960, it cost 600 rand a watt. Okay. Now we're down to, 5 rand a watt to make electricity. So there's watts, which is the power you can get, and there's kilowatt hours. So just from a watts point of view, in 1960 it cost you 600 rand a watt to make it, to buy electricity, to buy the panel, and now it costs you 5 rand. So we're at a different point. The economies of scale are such that the price has come down dramatically since 1960. And then you've got rivers. So you've got, for example, I know someone who lives on Cubans River, up the road from Plettenberg Bay. He's off-grid. He makes all of his own electricity from the river. He's got 4 micro-hydro turbines. They're called Pelton turbines. And he makes 100% of his electricity. He's also got a small solar panel, just in case he needs it, a grid of solar, it's called a string, a number of solar panels. He's got batteries. He's got about 12 fridges. He's got guests coming to stay. He's got TV. He's got everything. Whatever is important for you in your life, it doesn't matter if you're living in the middle of nowhere with no electricity, you can have electricity. So we've got lots of different sources of electricity from all kinds of places. And then of course we've got sewage. So now we take gas, we've got sewage, we go to the toilet, sewage goes to sewage farm, and if you drive to the airport in Cape Town, you smell the smell, that's methane. Okay? Now, and the methane is evaporating. And methane is 20 times worse for the environment than carbon dioxide. Okay? So 1 kilo of methane, 20 times is equal to 200 kilos of carbon dioxide. Okay? So we really don't want to we want to burn the methane. Okay? So if we want to burn the methane, we should burn it in a biodigester. So the biodigester takes the gas out of the out of the sewage, and there's a building in Australia. I met the architect in South Africa last year, and they are providing 100% of the energy that they need from the sewage going under the building. So the sewage is going under the building in any case, to the sewage farm down the road, or on the edge of the city, and all they do is they put it through a biodigester, the basement of the building, and they've got diesel turbines, not diesel turbines, methane, they're called gas engines, and they make electricity from it. So we could do that as well. So we go from a centralized grid. Now I'm going to change the subject. Okay, we go from so now I've spoken about different kinds of energy. I've spoken about our normal baseload energy, and I've spoken about alternative energy. Okay, now we need to say that. Let me pause. Do you mind if I pause? You have to. Can you connect the picture?
Yes, of course. Yeah, no problem.
I just wanted to get my track now because I'm going to change the subject to talk about.
I'm just going to stop it.